You've been learning a language for years, but still can't speak. I'll show you why this happens and how to fix it. Because this happens to a lot of people, and the solution is relatively simple. This happens, because you are focusing on the wrong things. Maybe you are learning languages um, in a disciplined way, you're consistent, but you're not doing the things that help you become conversational and then fluent as fast as possible. The most important thing when it comes to speaking is, first of all, getting a lot of speaking practice, of course, even if it's on your own, even if you speak on your own. But as important as that is to learn enough phrases that you are going to use. So instead of learning random sentences like with Duolingo, you need to practice the exact sentences, some of the exact sentences that you will use in real conversations. And if you look at this graphic here, you can see what I'm talking about. The reality of it is that most people in most conversations, we use a very limited amount of vocabulary, of words, and also of sentences. We tend to talk about the same things with the same people. And if you learn the right sentences for those, so everything you want to be able to say in those sentences, in those conversations, you will do well in most of those conversations. And the problem is that you might think that you've learned the sentences you need for those conversations, right? So you learn a list of sentences for meeting people or for talking about yourself or about your job. But the problem is that you haven't reviewed them enough times. So the rule is very simple. The more time you spend reviewing, or the more reviews you do of a group of sentences, the better you'll get at using them, right? Normally, and this of course depends on the language and depends on the person and many other things, but just to get an idea of how this works, normally you need 5 to 10 reps, so seeing the same sentences in different occasions, to recognize them in a foreign language. Again, depends on the language, it depends on many other things, right? But let's say 5 to 10 reps, 5 to 10 reviews of the same sentence, of the same group of sentences, to understand them when you see them. But to be able to understand them easily, instantly when you see them, you need, instead of 5 to 10 reps, you need 20 or 30 reps. And at this point, you'll recognize them easily, but you might still not be able to then remember them fast enough when you need to say them in conversation. So this is where people struggle without even noticing. But this is where the problems. This is the reason why people struggle to speak. Basically, these are sentences that are really useful that you prepared yourself, maybe even if you use Language Islands, that you should know, but then you can't really remember them fast enough or correctly when talking to people. And this is because you didn't review them enough times. See, maybe you review them 10 times, and because you understand them when you see them, that's enough. You think that you know them, and that's it. When in reality, you should be reviewing them well after that. So 10 reps, you recognize them. 20 reps, you recognize them much faster, much more easily. And you should keep reviewing them over and over. And once you've reviewed them 50 to 100 times, again, depends on the language. If it's a really, really easy language, maybe 20 times will be enough. But on average, you need over 50, maybe even 100 reviews of the same group of sentences to be able to easily, automatically remember them when you need them. All right. So you need a lot more reps than what you think to really know the sentences, to be able to use them actively. All right. This is if you're doing it by reviewing them only, if you're just reading and listening. If you are doing active recall, this means translating into the target language and then checking if you know them or not, or if you're doing Anki or things like that. Anki into the target language again. You try to remember what it like you're actually practicing the remembering part, that's active recall, then yes, then you'll need fewer reps. But again, this is much harder. This is hard work. A lot of people don't want to do it. But if you want to uh, get really good at those sentences that you need for conversation, and this is the key, focusing on the 1000, maybe 2000, but first the 1000 most important sentences. If you look at the graph here, you see that the most frequent 1000 sentences, much more important, much more frequent than the next thousand sentences. And with every group of sentences that you add to the sentences you're learning, again, if you do it in order of frequency, they'll be less and less frequent and useful. So you should allocate your time accordingly. You should spend a lot of time with the stuff that you say all the time, so it comes out automatic, and much less time with things that you say less often, and of course, no time or almost no time at all with things that you will never say. That's why all those, like the bear eats the banana and you're not an elephant, all that Duolingo stuff is useless because you'll never say it, right? Yeah, okay, you learn some words, but what we want to develop is the automatic response. Yeah, you want to be able to not only recognize the words and the sentence when you see it there on a screen or on paper, you want to remember the sentence exactly with the right pronunciation and fast with no errors when you need it in conversations. Fast, automatic response. This is the difference between being able to read the language, maybe even books. Maybe you're able to read books in the language, but you're not able to have a basic conversation. And this is because you didn't develop that automaticity or automatism, whatever it's called, um, in the target language with your core sentences. All right, so that's what you need to do. So, what you should do is, first of all, prepare your language islands, everything you want to be able to say in every situation and every scenario, at least all the common ones, right? Uh, Talking about yourself, introducing yourself, talking to meeting people, talking about your job, all the usual stuff that we normally talk about. And you should cover 90+% of the conversations you usually have or that you're likely to have, so that then if you learn all the right sentences for all of those, you can do really well in 95% or more of conversations. So you should prepare specifically for those, preparing your sentences. Do lots of repetition with them. Like I said, the most 1000, the most common 1000 sentences. I mean, even if the graphics says 30 or 40 reps, no, you should do more than that. You should 50 or 100 reps with them of breathing and listening over and over and over. You should do 30 or 40 reps in a week or two, and then just like daily reps with them for weeks until you know them by heart and you can remember them automatically, like in your native language. Um, or you can go for quality instead of quantity and do active recall with them. You do 10 or 20 reps until you understand them, of reading and listening, until you understand them easily, or relatively easily. And then you start doing active recall, trying to remember, checking if you remember them correctly. And you do this more and more. And instead of 100 reps, you'll need 30 or 30, 40 maximum, and you'll remember them well. But this is frustrating and a lot of hard work. Most people avoid it. But again, this is how you get results. You either spend a lot of time, I mean, you'll have to spend a lot of time anyway, but you either spend a lot of that time, learning time, doing a lot of boring reps with the same sentences. Yeah, even well after you think you know them well, you keep doing reps with them of reading and listening, or you do active recall with them. Yeah, you do a lot of reps with them first, and then you do active recall to accelerate the process with intensive hard work. And if you do this with 1,000 sentences, the most useful 1,000 sentences, you'll be able to have good conversations. And the next 1,000 sentences will require half the reps because, first of all, you know a lot of the vocab there. And also, they're not as useful as the first 1,000. So you shouldn't spend that time anyway. So basically, it's a matter of efficiency. You should spend your time doing the things that get you results. That's why I call things a waste of time. I mean, you do with your time what you want. You enjoy doing something else that doesn't bring you results. Okay, do it. But if you want to get results as soon as possible, you should spend most of your time, as unpleasant as it might be, doing the things that will get you the best results, right? And that is learning the most useful sentences for the most likely scenarios.